Shane, Munster final in Páirc Uí Rinn on Sunday. I feel a small bit compromised as a Borris-Ileigh native asking you about Ballygunner and trying to build you up to the last. But anyway, it's your third final in a row. You won it last year. The monkey is off the back. Do you go into this in a different place than before because that pressure of trying to bridge the gap to when the previous team won it in 01 is no longer there?
Yeah, there's a different pressure, but there's pressure. I mean, every final that you go out and play in, it's obviously a really challenging environment, especially when you're playing the best teams in Munster, you know. And look, not for blowing up Borris-Ileigh's stake, but it's Tipperary have won the All-Ireland. Borris-Ileigh are the best team in Tipperary, and they've All-Ireland winners in every line of the field, which, look, being honest about it, we don't. So they're bringing a serious challenge on Sunday, and we're aware of that, so it's a great kind of a great thing from a preparation perspective, because you know you have to have everything right to have a chance of winning.
What was it like last year trying to get over that bridge? I suppose the Páirc have been one of your arch enemies in recent times in Munster anyway. What was that pressure like trying to finally get over the line? Because I think it had been 6 finals or maybe 7 Munster finals and you hadn't actually won.
Yeah, no, there was. It was like a monkey on our back. And the Páirc especially, you know, they've beaten us three out of 4 Munster campaigns. So, you know, we kept coming back and eventually we made the breakthrough. So there was a big challenge around it, and I think we went at it last year, and maybe they had an off day, which helped us as well.
And like, there's obviously that kind of, or there had been that ghost of the 2001 team, and I suppose that whole era, Paul Flynn, etc., had won a number of county titles. Is that something that was kind of hanging over you too, that the club and people around the club would always be talking about that team, and you hadn't quite emulated them?
Yeah, well, I mean, if we didn't win last year's Munster final, you know, we would have underachieved maybe as a team. We would have won a lot of counties, but not maybe went to that extra level. So that was a big challenge for us to overcome it.
What actually, like, this isn't getting ahead to try and talk past Borris-Ileigh or anything like that, but just to reflect back on the game against Ballyhale last year down in Thurles, where do you think it got away from you?
Yeah, good question. Look, the better team on the day were Ballyhale, so that's just the facts of the matter. We just didn't turn up as the way we did in Munster at previous times, and they had 2 or 3 great performances from some of their key men, and they went on to play for Kilkenny this year, so the better team won, simple as that.
Now, you've won 6 county titles in a row. You seem like just one of these teams that's so sure of what you're trying to do. Like, your game plan seems very set. You have a lot of threats inside Peter Hogan and Desi Hutchinson, and you just, you know, you see the packed midfield. But a very assured sort of a team. You must know each other like the back of each other's hands.
Yeah, well, we do have there's a certain core of the team that have been together for 6 years, but there's transitions that have come in and out as well, which has been good for the sustainability of the team in the county championship. We would have had 3 or 4 positional changes every year, even management changes, and then you have new blood coming in, which is really, really important for us.
Can I ask you about Waterford then? What do you make of the appointment of Liam Cahill?
Yeah, personally, I don't know anything about Liam, only what I hear from Tipperary, from your own county, and it's been very positive in that sense. So he's won an All-Ireland 19 last year, and people have good time for him up there. But I think inter-county management at the moment is more about a structure around it, and he seems to put in a very good structure around it. I think Michael Beavan's Toomevara native is very, very highly regarded. Stephen Frampton from our own club has great experience, and then you have Stephen Malumphey, who, you know, from his leadership on the field, and in the army he would have a lot of experience in that space. So there seems to be a good structure around the team.
Because that's 2 seasons now without a championship win, and I suppose the last championship win is the All-Ireland semi-final in 2017. Like, do you think that there's a real risk of heading towards the doldrums if a couple of wins and a bit of momentum isn't picked up?
Doldrums for Waterford would have been, you know, the 90s and maybe the late 80s, and they were doldrums, you know. If you look at the decade, the expanse of the last decade, we've won Munster championships, we've won 2 or 3 national leagues, we've competed in 2 All-Irelands. We haven't achieved yet, but I would hope that we wouldn't go back to the challenging period we had in the late 80s or the early 90s, you know.
Like, what do you see as the ceiling for this team, or where can this team go if everything is right? Now, we've seen like Noel Connors and Maura Shannon have been discarded, and I presume Desi Hutchison will get called up. But where do you see this team going, like best case scenario?
Best case scenario, obviously, the lads that play will want to win an All-Ireland.
But can they, I suppose?
100%. Yeah, I think there's potential always in Waterford hurlers wise. Is to get the right players on the field and get them to perform to their best. Without that, any team won't have a chance. But there is good enough players quality of players in Waterford that can compete at a high level, for sure.
And I believe that Austin Gleeson gave an exhibition for Mount Zion in the county semi-final this year. Do you think he can get back to his best form? Because he would have talked about the Hurler of the Year award being a millstone on his neck, and he probably hasn't performed at the level we know he can in the last season and a half too.
100%. I mean, if you take it, when Austin won that, he was very, very young in a sense of a career-wise. And then obviously it's a challenge. How do you get better when you're at that level, especially when you're young, 21, 22 years of age? And that's a big challenge. And then your responsibilities in his club and in his county has been strong on him, so put a lot of pressure on him. But going through that phase and coming out the other side, he was absolutely fantastic from outside this year. He just showed remarkable leadership ability, took everything on every day, brilliant attitude. So hopefully he'll get enough of a break now around the Christmas time and get the momentum into next season from that. That's what we'd be looking at from a Waterford perspective. At
the end of Derek McGrath's first season, he cut loose, I suppose, if I can use a blunt enough term, a lot of experienced players and went with the youth. That certainly didn't go down well in the county at the time. And it took winning the league, I suppose, the following season before people started to come on side. Now, and maybe they never fully did because of the way he set the team up. But leaving that aside, Noel Connors being cut loose and Maura Shanahan also, has that kind of made any sort of an impression down in Waterford?
Well, ultimately the manager is in the position to make the choices that he has the power to do. And time will tell whether that's the right choice or the wrong choice. But that's why they're in the position in the first place.
Yeah, because it's I think Noel Connors has maybe 4 All-Stars, something like that. Maybe I'm wrong on that one. But it just seems like to not even give them a chance before cutting them adrift seems an unusual one.
Well, it's his own prerogative. So, I mean, time will tell in that sense.
Okay. Right, and then just in a broad sense, looking back in your own career with Waterford, 3 Munster titles, was it? A couple of leagues maybe in there as well. What do you look back as kind of your best day in a Waterford shirt?
Best day, that's a good question. I suppose winning one of the Munsters would have been maybe one of the best days. But looking back, always the goal was to win an All-Ireland, and we didn't. And would you have regrets? You'd probably think, from being honest about it, that we had the potential with different teams over the period that I was playing, and unfortunately we didn't just gel, or there was something missing, that extra little bit of edge that would have made the difference. So, you'd look at the days maybe that what could have been, unfortunately, because our ambition was always to win an All-Ireland. But look, we weren't totally unsuccessful either. We broke through, played in a number of All-Irelands, and we didn't win them, but we had Munster Championship National Leagues, which might have been seen as progress. But look, as a player, being honest, you want to win the big one, and we didn't. So that's what you'd remember.
Because I look at 2007 and I just think, if you didn't have to play a replay against Cork, you mightn't have been so gassed against Limerick, and maybe that would have been, because in 2008 there was the changeover of manager. I'm not really sure what happened in there, but it just felt to me like 07 was the year.
Yeah, and that team was an absolutely fantastic team, from the flair and the flamboyance and the skill, and just unbelievable. But then maybe we're missing that little, that team ethic, that unity that would have been the real extra touch that you need to win an All-Ireland. Like you see in Tipperary last year, you've seen all the good teams, they have that spirit, humility, etc. Now we had a bit of it, but to win an All-Ireland you have to be extra special. We were extra special talent-wise, that team, but maybe if we had a bit more of that, we could have gone, further. So it is always, you look back and just be honest.
I look at the kind of current Waterford team, and I think Austin Gleeson is a player that would have fitted in perfectly with that team at the noughties, with Flynn, Milan, Ken McGrath, etc., and Dan Shanahan, etc. And do you think that the balance has gone too far the other way now, that in the last couple of years it probably hasn't been quite as kind of off the cuff?
Good question. I think hurling has gone that way. So even if you look at Kilkenny when they're very successful, people would say they have no tactics.
Which is nonsense.
No, nonsense. Their whole system was based on, deep line half forwards, work up and down the field. They had more analysis done maybe than anyone else. Yeah. So, the hurling evolved into that space where what would have worked back in the 90s just doesn't work anymore, from that just going out, lashing the ball, being flamboyant. So it's a different time.
Who do you see as All-Ireland, the biggest All-Ireland contenders next year?
Good question. Limerick, obviously, I mean, the day against Kilkenny, I think they were just rattled in the first 10, 15 minutes. And, you know, they had a number of wides on the day that if they went over, they would have been a bigger challenge to Tipperary. So you'd be looking at Limerick, Tipperary again, being the two key ones. And then you can never write off Kilkenny either. And Wexford had a good run. Be good for hurling if they could progress on that as well.
Maybe Galway too.
Galway are always there, and Galway are unusual. Like Cork, they can come up overnight with a team and just take momentum and take it on Ireland by storm. You know, they have a habit of doing that. So,
Thanks very much.
no problem. Thank you.